The NBA offseason is in full swing for the defending world champion Golden State Warriors and the NBA in general. Kevin Durant has a trade request. The Warriors have new draft picks. They're trying to re-sign their own greatness. There's a lot to talk about. And I have an expert in the field, Rafael Barlow. He's going to join me next. This is Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. Locked On Warriors is partnering with Arcade 1UP to give away 3 free NBA JAM Shaq machines. That's right, 3 of them. These are the guys known for making the incredible retro 3/4 scale at home arcade games like Pac-Man, Golden Tee, and many more. Enter to win on arcade1up.com/locked on. That's arcade1up.com/locked on for your chance to win one. You can follow draft expert Rafael Barlow at Barlow500. You can follow me, Cyrus Saatsaz, on Twitter at DogSurfRocha. Rafael, it's an absolute pleasure to finally meet you. I've been following your content for a while. I'm not spinning things. I'm not exaggerating and saying you are a draft expert. And the Warriors had 4 huge picks. Or 3 picks, plus they added an undrafted player, a two-way player, or is it a player they signed to a two-way deal? I'm sorry. But this news dropped right as we're starting to record this. We're recording this on Thursday, June 30th at 1 p.m. And Kevin Durant comes out and decides he wants a trade request. One of the most entitled individuals in NBA history feels he's now entitled to go to another team that doesn't have Kyrie Irving, who I thought was his best friend. That I thought Brooklyn was supposed to be his salvation in life. He left the Golden State Warriors for this team. Your first thoughts on that insane trade request?
I'm not too surprised by it, to be honest with you. And I like Durant. I've actually had a chance to meet him before a couple times. Very nice guy. I feel like the media kind of bullied him with the Warriors to leave Golden State in a sense because people didn't respect the title. They were saying he joined Steph's team. That whole thing. You don't join a team that beat you in the conference finals. And I think that he was just kind of searching for, his own happiness in a sense, because as long as he was with Golden State, it was going to be Steph's team and so on. So I think he went to Brooklyn to try to put his own team together, and he, I guess, gambled on Kyrie, who is a little unreliable. And, honestly, the first thing that comes to my mind in this situation is that James Harden took the media hit and the reputation hit. And everybody talked about how, it was all negative about him. But I think he must have saw the writing on the wall. He knew this wasn't going to last. And he forced his way out, and he took, like I said, all the criticism behind it. And now, what was it, like 3-4 months later? I mean, it looks like everything is going to implode. So,
yeah.
It's interesting. Sounds like Phoenix may be his preferred destination.
Well, let me first of all, when you say that you feel like the media was unfair to him, are you referring to actual media members, or are you referring more to like just this massive multi-million media group of social media users who are all like simultaneously attacking him, or is it all the above? And if it's media, are there any names like you can that stick out to you in terms of being overly critical that you think got to him?
I think maybe mostly social media. If it was Stephen A. Smith, it was somebody on ESPN. Had to have. I'm guessing Stephen A. Smith. He's probably the most opinionated person that was criticizing him. I remember just like him being on a podcast with CJ McCollum, and McCollum was very critical about the movie Made.
I remember that.
I think it's just little things like that. And I mean, years ago, someone told me that KD, his goal is to be on par with LeBron. And they told me this years ago. This is just someone.
I heard that too.
It was a player, an NBA player. It was his opinion. He felt like, he wanted to be on the same field as LeBron. LeBron was considered the face of the league and so on, and he just kind of mentioned like the parallels. KD went to the Warriors to beat
Mhm.
LeBron, beat him, and still didn't get the same respect. LeBron goes to the big market in LA. KD goes to the one across the country. Hopefully, they can meet up again. Lakers Nets finals, and just kind of put him in that same, I guess, stratosphere in a sense. And so
Yeah.
it's just very, very crazy how things have unfolded.
I think it's a shame that he cares so much about what other people think. You know what I'm saying? Like I like if I look, it's I'm not sitting here trying to it's hard to judge a human being based on who they are as a person. And but I feel like he would be a happier person, and I feel like he'll be a wildly more successful person if he just deleted social media, if he found other avenues of entertainment, because social media in general can be very toxic if you don't use it
Mhm.
for information purposes and you're not using it to market whatever it is you're making yourself. The only value left is just entertainment. And I don't think he needs to market himself. I don't think he needs to get information from social media. He's admitted he likes it, but it's toxic, and he clearly like that stuff registers to him. I just don't understand why he won't delete that stuff, man, because it's never going to work out for him if that's what he's like basing his self value on. You know what I'm saying? And that
Yeah.
seems to be what he's doing.
Well, like
Weird.
I said, I've met him once. It was I think it was like 2014. So he was still with Golden State, and it was a funny story. So it was Carmelo Anthony had this pro week in New York, and he invited a bunch of his NBA friends to come work out, play. So a friend of mine was invited, and he was like, "You want to go?" I was like, "Of course I want to go." He was like, "You can film me. I'm a videographer." So for a week, I was like the only person that had a camera there in the gym, and I was there. And then KD showed up, and then they end up filming, I guess like an off-season documentary. I think it was on like HBO. So they came on maybe like a Thursday. But I remember like it was the day his contract with Nike was supposed to end, and Under Armour gave him like this huge offer, right? So we're sitting there in the gym, and they had this big, huge. It was like a projector screen, and ESPN is in the background, and they're just talking about what is KD gonna do, this, and that. And he was just sitting there, just talking to everybody. And the thing that I learned about him in that brief interaction is he does not want to be famous. He wants to just talk barbershop basketball like everybody else. He wants to be as low as just down to earth. He doesn't want to be considered a superstar. Just wants to be a guy that just loves basketball. And so
Mhm.
what was interesting is at the time I was doing a web series, a video web series. And this is like again 2014, I believe. And so when I introduced myself, he was like, "Oh man, I watch your web series." Like he just watches basketball. In my web series, it wasn't like it was one that was doing millions of views, but he knew everything about it, and he just eats, sleeps, watches basketball. I've had people tell me, like guys that maybe like G League guys, 10-day contracts. They get to the free throw line, they line up next to him, and he's just like he knows their stats, right?
He's
So I
smart. He's smart.
yeah,
And he's smart. And by the way, you know your basketball, Raphael. I've seen your stuff too for a long time. I don't say that about a lot of people, man. I'm very critical when it comes to the media and who covers basketball because I think most of them have no idea what they're talking about, and they somehow fell
yeah.
into these positions. You know what you're talking about, man. So I totally understand why Kevin Durant said that to you because you get it. Continue on. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Just wanted
Yeah,
to
so
give
this
you some
was
praise.
again, this is 2014. I mean, like I probably had 500 followers on Twitter and all that. But he just eats, sleeps, breathes basketball, and he just wants to be, at least in my impression, he just wants to be like your barbershop fan. He wants to be able to be on Twitter, talk basketball, debate. And I think sometimes he's was given this outwardly talent and all that. And I just think that maybe the aspect of being a superstar is not something that he likes. I think he wants to be able to walk around town and freely go shopping for shoes or go grab something to eat. And I think that's his biggest struggle is that
Hmm.
he wants to be normal, but with his talent, he'll never get a chance to be normal. And I think, a normal person would be affected by, I mean, just think like if you at your job and everybody's criticizing you, it's gonna bother you a little bit. And I think that's the
Of
part that
course. He's a
makes
human
it
being, man. Yes,
yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah,
And dude, and the problem is he's never going to experience normal, at least not until he retires, because he's 6'11". Dude, he can't walk anywhere in life without people blatantly like picking him out. Like people aren't 6'11" in this world. So he's going to stick out
yeah,
no matter where he goes. That's unfortunate, man. And for people watching this going, hey man, I'm here for Warriors content. Dude, Kevin Durant played 3 years for the Warriors. He has a lasting impact, and whatever he decides to do next will also impact the Warriors. So yeah, we'll talk about him. This is big news for the NBA. And we'll obviously cover the Warriors. First, I got to talk about Arcade 1UP. Raphael, you're working with Locked On. You're part of the NBA draft board, the big board. What is that thing called, man? I'm so sorry. What?
yeah. Locked On NBA Big Board. It was Locked On NBA Draft, and then the transition with me taking over for Chat Ford, it kind of changed up a little
Love
bit.
it. Dude, those are big shoes to fill, man. You're doing a marvelous job of
Huge.
that so far.
Thank you.
The NBA big, of course, you're welcome, man. So Boom Shakalaka is something that when I was a kid playing video games, that was, I think Kevin Calabro's voice was part of NBA Jam. It was one of the highlights of my childhood. And that game is back thanks to Arcade 1UP, and they're giving away the Shaq edition machine. You can pre-order it now from arcade1up.com. That's arcade, the number 1up.com. For an estimated early September ship date. Arcade 1UP is the place for fun. They've got even more classics like Golden Tee. That's a game that I played for I don't know how many months of my life. I spent at bars in North Beach, San Francisco, playing that Golden Tee with the wheel. They got Mortal Kombat, many others starting at just $399. Check this out. They're giving away an NBA Jam Shaq edition to a Locked On listener. Enter for a chance to win a game console for your man cave at arcade1up.com/locked on. That's arcade, the number 1up.com/locked on. You've got till July 8th. That's just a week away to enter to win NBA Jam Shaq edition console. Don't miss out. Enter today. Who are you going to play with?
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. For your second listen, get up to date on the latest news and rumors in the NBA in just 30 minutes every day with Locked On NBA. Locked On NBA, your daily NBA update in just 30 minutes. You can follow Rafael Barlow on Twitter at Barlow500. So you mentioned that Kevin Durant requested reportedly, I can't remember if it was Sham or Waj who dropped that he wanted to be traded to the Phoenix Suns. I've also heard the Miami Heat being a possibility. First of all, with the Phoenix Suns, who the hell are they going to trade? Here's the other thing I saw too. I saw that the Nets weren't just going to give him away. If they have all the leverage, he's signed for 4 years, guaranteed. If the Nets want to keep him, they can keep him. I mean, I don't think you want a disgruntled Kevin Durant on your roster, but in theory, they could keep him. So they have some leverage. I don't see who the Suns can give back. I mean, for salary purposes, I mean, I'm guessing DeAndre Ayton would be someone you could maybe sign and trade with. Are the Suns a realistic trade partner? Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think so. I think you can sign 8 and 2 a max deal, and then Mikal Bridges, and I think those numbers would add up. And then you throw in some picks because the Nets, they traded all their picks away in the Harden deal, so I imagine they're trying to get their picks. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Phoenix has all of their own picks. So to me, I think that can be a little bit realistic. I can't see them moving him within conference. I mean, I can't see him going. The team that and this is again just my opinion. I wonder, does Atlanta feel like, man, we made a trade a day too early? Because they traded, I think, 25, 27, and 29 picks for DeJounte Murray.
Unprotected, I think 2 of them, yeah.
Yeah. So you probably could have packaged, whoever, on Okongwu, some of their young talent, along with those picks, which the Nets probably really want, and John Collins or whatever, and maybe you could have made something work. But yeah. So the Phoenix situation sounds somewhat realistic.
Yeah, when you mentioned that trade, I forgot about Bridges. That suddenly does make that a feasible trade, especially if you're throwing some number 1 picks. Does that make I know that makes Phoenix a contender, but does that suddenly make them a team that could beat the Warriors? Like, are they the favorites? Like, where would you place the Suns if that trade hypothetically happened?
I don't know. I mean, it sounds like they didn't have Ayton in their plans anyway. So
True.
basically end up trading a guy you didn't want for from Mikal Bridges. And then you probably, if teams really devalue centers, you probably figure like we can go get another center for cheap. We can go
Yep.
get a Mo Bamba or, bring JaVale McGee back or whatever and just go get a center for cheap. And now we have Chris Paul, Devin Booker, and Kevin Durant, which makes it tough. But then, I think Dallas kind of exposed Phoenix a little bit just because even though Bridges is supposed to be like their best defender, he was just a little too light in the pants.
Yeah, he was.
He
was.
For Luka. And but Phoenix doesn't get to the free throw line. They don't really get to the free throw line or really get to the paint. So I don't know. I mean, the Warriors are, and I'm not saying this just because this is a Warriors podcast, but you got, I imagine Clay will be better next year, even though he's a year older.
Same.
I think he'll get his feet under him. Then you got the young guys that can develop. Wiseman supposed to come back. So it's gonna be tough. I mean, the Warriors just have a perfect storm of. I mean, they had 2 bad years. Don't get me wrong; those 2 bad years helped their
Horrible.
future
Yeah.
long term. But they could be contenders for a long time.
I've been saying the exact same thing right now. Have you heard anything, man? I know the draft is more your focus, but I'm guessing you know everything about the NBA. You have incredible connections, my man. If you connect me with Ryan Rollins for this program, I would love you forever. I think that was a great pick. We'll talk about these draft picks in just a moment. The Warriors got 4 new players on draft day, but you know what? You're right. I think Klay Thompson is going to be better. I agree with you. I think the Warriors I think they're the clear-cut favorites next year. But this Kevin Durant thing is wild. It's absolutely wild. My only thing is like Sean Marks is he's shrewd in the moves that he makes. I don't know if he would buy DeAndre Ayton for Durant. That's the meat of the trade. I don't know if he goes for that, man. I mean, he might. I mean, if Durant, really makes it difficult for him. So you don't think there's a possibility of Durant staying in the Eastern Conference, because the Miami Heat are another team I saw mentioned, and I actually think that might be a better fit, but I don't know. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, but I mean, like Tyler Hero, it's centered around Tyler Hero.
I know you're and Bam, yeah, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I can't imagine him giving up Bam.
That's crazy.
Are they going to just throw in? I mean, you would have to throw in Duncan Robinson for any type of deal to make the money work. And so I would rather have Ayton and Mikal Bridges than Duncan Robinson, Hero, and so I think Phoenix is probably the most realistic destination there. I can't think of anyone else that would give them young talent and that has all of their picks. Because I mean, Phoenix guys are pretty much homegrown outside of Chris Paul. So I think that's probably.
I hear you. And it would not. Let me ask you this, and I don't know if you've heard anything, or this could just be a guess on your part. Did Durant and Kyrie Irving have a fallout? Like because they seem to be really close friends one minute. Like, what do you think happened there?
I don't know. I mean, but Harden and Durant were pretty close too. So it just seems like there's a lot going on there behind the scenes.
Yes.
I think I just found it interesting. Again, this is just all Rafael Barlow, not any insight.
Of course.
Interesting that Durant doesn't say anything. Kyrie opts in, and then Durant's like, "Okay, I'm out of here."
That's crazy.
It could be just total coincidence. Does he stay if Kyrie declines his option and go? But I thought like Kyrie opting in. I didn't think that would mean Durant would ask.
Agreed.
I thought he would opt out if Kyrie left. So yeah, man, it's a very interesting day. But I think like the NBA has to love it. Like the offseason in the NBA is bringing so much attention to the game. So they have to. I mean, owners may not like it, but they have to love it because they're benefiting.
I don't think Sean Marks likes any of this.
No.
No, you're absolutely right, dude. The Adam Silver right now is just literally rubbing his hands together right now. He's licking his chops. This is pure gold from a marketing perspective. The whole world, anyone who loves the NBA, is just thirsting for this right now. It's drama. It's drama at its finest, and it's genuine drama. There's an article last year I read where James Harden It was literally just kind of mind blown at Kyrie Irving's antics, right? I think there was one game in Cleveland where Irving lit up some sage in
Oh
the
yeah,
locker
in
room to
Boston.
like
He did it in Boston too. He put it on the
or
court.
Boston, yeah,
Yeah.
to get rid of like bad spirits or something like that. And Harden, I guess, was just looking at him like, shut. Kyrie Irving he's just a different cat, man. There's just no other way to spin that. And I can't see it being easy to play with him. I mean, he is incredibly talented. But the reason why I ask about the fallout thing is because part of me also wonders if the grand scheme in Durant's head is go to Phoenix, get Kyrie Irving there with him. I mean, Chris Paul's at the end of his career. Might not happen this year, but maybe he's thinking after Kyrie's contract runs out next year, they can figure something out. But if they fell out, then obviously that's not something.
Yeah,
This has been a wild day, man. This this Durant thing, I'm sorry, just started just a pure mayhem in the media world. I got to give some love to Sakara real quick, a longtime sponsor of this program before we resume things. Look, I'm a firm believer that you are what you eat. And Sakara, I think, subscribes to that mantra as well. They help you live a healthy, balanced lifestyle, and they truly enjoy it, providing that with delicious, plant-rich, transformational nutrition that builds a foundation for living in your best body. Now is the time to seek wellness, joy, and abundance in all areas of your life. Especially we got a pandemic. You need to take care of your immune system. You need to take care of your body. And you could do it in this case without sacrificing taste or quality. Right now, Sakara is offering your listeners 20% off their first order when they go to sakara.com/lockedon20 or enter the code lockedon20 at checkout. That's Sakara, SAKARA.com/lockedon20 to get 20% off your first order. Again, sakara.com/lockedon20.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thank you for making Locked On Warriors your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts. So is Rafael Barlow on Twitter. You could follow him on Twitter at Barlow500. Let's go to the Warriors here. I agree with you that they're in a beautiful place. It remains to be seen what happens with Kevon Looney, Gary Payton II, Otto Porter Jr. Those are the three big free agents. Do you have any thoughts? I mean, have you heard anything? Do you have any personal opinions on what you think what's going to happen with those free agents? I hope they all come back. I think Dub Nation collectively wants all those three players back. Looney and GP2 are clearly the bigger priority. Your thoughts on those free agents before we dive into the draft?
Yeah, I mean, I imagine Looney comes back, but I think that can be interesting also because, he's done enough to earn a raise and
Yes.
be their starting center.
Oh, yeah.
But you just drafted Wiseman high, and you have to develop him because I think luckily for Golden State, they're so good that they haven't. And there's been a little heat about the Wiseman pick, but luckily they've been winning. Imagine if they weren't winning and, they selected him over who was LaMelo, right? He was.
No. Correct. LaMelo was third, but what's even weirder is they could have, in theory, pursued the number one pick that year. The T-Wolves were shopping that pick. I mean, Anthony Edwards, I saw him in Georgia, and I wanted him so bad for the Warriors, but they stuck with number two and got Wiseman. So, yeah, that was your top three. Yeah.
So, but luckily, I mean, it's kind of, he's been fortunate for someone that's drafted as high as he has to play the little amount of games, and he's just kind of been able to hide under the radar. So I think if the Warriors are going to have to find time or find ways to develop him. So, for Looney, that could be pretty interesting there. Peyton has to, I mean, on one hand, you feel like, all right, you've landed in the perfect situation, but hasn't made any real money yet. So,
True.
There could be another team that sees his value and says, hey, we're going to give you, more than, we're going to give you a decent chunk of change. So that's going to be a tough decision.
Yeah.
I mean, Otto Porter was there. He started, he started in the finals.
In the finals, dude.
Yeah.
In the finals.
And they were down 2-0, right?
2-1. Yeah.
2-1,
before they made the switch.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Warriors have the money. I mean,
yes, they do.
They have plenty of money to go way over the cap. And really, the Warriors are in position if they wanted to I guess, upgrade and put themselves in position to get another superstar. If they want to just say, hey, we want to package Kuminga and Moody and Wiseman, I guess maybe throw in another salary. They could land one of these superstars, another superstar, if they had if they can get the money to match. But I don't think they're going to do that.
I don't think so. I don't think so either. And not to mention, would you agree with me that Kuminga and Moody they're untradeable assets to me? In my opinion, the only players you would trade Kuminga especially for is Luka or Giannis. I don't know if I'd trade him for anyone else. I think that highly of him. Am I being delusional here? Do you kind of agree? What are your thoughts?
Man, if Bradley Beal wanted to go to the Warriors,
You would make that trade?
Yeah.
For Kuminga?
Yeah, I mean, I like him, but it's a situation where, I mean, it's value and potential and upside over the proven product. I don't think Bill is only like 29 years old. He still has some time. So, but I don't think you can get the money to match up. At one point I thought, okay, Wiggins plus one or two of their young guys could get them whoever the top free agent that wanted, out. But I think Wiggins has done enough. He's earned the right to stay.
Agreed.
So,
agreed.
But yeah, I do think like if they would have, lost, then you could have packaged Wiggins and Kuminga, or Wiggins, Kuminga, Moody. Then you could have got Durant back, or or Bill, or whoever. So, but yeah, who's the fourth free agent? It was Porter.
Well, those are the three big ones. It's Looney, GP2, Otto Porter Jr., and then you got Nemanja Bjelica.
Okay, yeah. His brother-in-law
was valuable. Yeah.
His brother-in-law free agent.
Is who?
Brother-in-law.
But yeah, technically yes, but I guess I'm guessing he's coming back. Damian Lee. Yeah, I imagine he's coming back. Who knows though? I mean, who knows? But let me ask you this: just as a hypothetical that I was asking people last season, would you trade Wiggins and Kuminga for Durant? Because that's ultimately what the trade was when the Warriors traded Durant to the Nets. That's what they got back in return, and it resulted in a championship. Would you trade them back and for Durant, or would you keep those two guys?
Oh man, I trade them. I mean, the Warriors never lost with the healthy that lineup. Like, I have a friend that played for the Cavs, 17, and he's just. So I was asking him, this was just about a week ago, and he didn't play much. He's like, man, I had a front row seat. I was sitting on the bench. And he was like, there's nothing anybody could do with that team. And so I was like, so like after, the last game, like, were guys in the locker room mad, upset? He's like, yeah, guys were upset, but it was almost like this team is unfair. Like, what could we have done to beat this team? And so I think, I mean, they didn't lose with that group. So yeah, I mean, I'd bring them back, and I couldn't see them losing for a while. I mean, it just extends everybody else's career, extends Clay's career, extends Draymond's career, extends Steph a little longer, because now everybody is, their role reduces just a little bit more. So yeah, I would make that trade in a heartbeat.
Yeah, and I'm going to talk about Draymond stirred some Warrior emotions when he said on his podcast. He did a joint podcast with JJ Redick where he said that Stephen Curry, the player he is now, is different from the player he was in like 2015, 16, 17. He didn't build the strength yet to really just create his own shots and score at will. The Steph fans get so sensitive over that stuff, man. Draymond, I don't think meant any disrespect saying that. I just wouldn't do it just because Durant is going to be 34 next year. I mean, he's approaching the tail end of his career, whereas Wiggins is 27. Kuminga's 19 still. You know what I'm saying?
It's only in age. Like, you can't look at Durant and say he's slowing down.
True.
So I think it's only in age. He suffered a major injury and he came back the same exact player. And
almost better. Yeah. I mean, you're right. No, you're absolutely right, man. Who are these guys the Warriors drafted, dude? Enlighten myself and enlighten everyone else who's watching or listening to this show today. The Warriors obviously, drafted 3 players. They also added a player that after the draft that signed him to a 2-year deal. Let's start with Patrick Baldwin Jr. You expressed some surprise that the Warriors picked him up. He's 6'10". People rave about his form, but he also had a horrible shooting percentage. I had Sophia Jones on the last show, Mark Jones's daughter, who plays for San Jose State. She was actually my student at San Jose State as well. Small world. And I asked her about that, and she thought his ankle injuries played a part in terms of his mental approach, and it affected his shot. His form is beautiful. He's 6'10". Your thoughts, sir, on Patrick Baldwin Jr.?
Biggest shocker of the draft. I just don't get it.
Oh, wow.
So everybody that talks about Patrick Baldwin Jr., what's the first thing they say? Oh, his shot is beautiful. It looks good. Nobody says anything about it going in. Nobody.
It was horrible. Yeah, it was like 26% or something, right?
Yeah, I just don't get it. So, and this is not a knock on Patrick Baldwin Jr. He was out of my top 60
Wow.
prospects. Because I could be totally wrong, and I'll admit if I'm wrong. I don't judge guys based off of what they did in high school,
Right.
He had a phenomenal junior year in high school. He missed his senior year with an injury, came back and played for Team USA at the under-19s. The majority of his shot attempts were threes. Wasn't very efficient there. And when have we seen a player not dominate mid-major college basketball? Then I was at the combine. He tested athletically as one of the worst in the entire combine. He had a 26-inch vertical. I'm 43. I know I can get up over 26 inches. And then I was at like the shooting, and the shot didn't look good. I personally think like it's in his head now. That's why he's missing. So maybe the Warriors said, okay, well, he can shoot and the form looks good. Maybe it's just mentally, but I do think it's in his head. I think he just kind of lost his confidence, but it's just weird. Like he wasn't the only one. Like Peyton Watson only averaged 3 points a game, and then he went in the first round. I've never seen an American college player average 3 points per game and be a first round pick. But yeah, I just thought it was very, very weird. Like I watched the games. There were games where he didn't really make a lot of effort, and he, in my opinion, was selected in the first round based off of how pretty his form is and what he did as a high school junior. The Warriors are, fortunate enough to where they have the luxury where they can swing for the fences.
Yes.
He was a projected top 10 pick coming into the season. So, maybe their thought process is, okay, he's had a couple injuries. Everyone was high on him, and we have the luxury of swinging for the fences. If he works out, great. If he doesn't work out, we didn't really miss out on anything. But, the draft is getting more and more confusing because, again, he didn't have the numbers that suggest the first round pick at a mid-major school, but he went based off of his high school resume. But I thought NBA scouts weren't supposed to be watching high school basketball.
Well, that seems to be the Warriors their strategy for the draft, because outside of those two horrible years you mentioned, and they were horrible, but at the same time, when you have a 5-year run like they did, it's just they had to take a break. The strategy seems to be, and you can correct me if I'm wrong here, is that they aim for two things for their draft picks. One is pedigree. Like you said, Patrick Baldwin Jr. They have the luxury of kind of taking a risk. Clearly did take a risk with him, but his high school pedigree, his dad, he grew up around the game. So he has the pedigree, certainly, and then character. They seem to love bringing guys in that they don't have to worry about their off-court activities, right? That their maturity levels are usually higher than your typical draft pick. So do you agree with me on there? Like, do you think that's why?
I agree. I agree 100%. He comes from the pedigree, comes from a good family, is a good character guy. So that is totally in line. And like I said, the Warriors have the luxury to where if he doesn't play a single NBA minute next year, he can play in Santa Cruz. And if the ankle injury was slowing him down, he can, go there and rehab and get better. I think they could have got him.
Well, let me ask you this, Rafael. Who do you think the Warriors should have picked up?
I think there were other more, like, for example, Andrew Nembhard would have been a guy that I would have picked up.
I've heard that too.
He's, to me, the best playmaker in the draft. One or two best playmakers in the draft. He's NBA ready. He was a senior. He can come in and contribute right away. And, whether it's your backup point guard, he can run your second unit. And I think that he was, the Warriors don't necessarily have any real needs in a sense, but I think he would have been able to just come in and contribute right away.
I hear you. No, Kevin Dana he's the voice of the Santa Cruz Warriors. He joins me every Monday here, and he joined me for draft night, and he was raving about him. He was really hoping the Warriors drafted him, and everyone was surprised. Like I was like, when the draft pick happened, I was on this show with Dana and 4 others. There were 6 of us total, and when the time came for the number 28 pick, we all gave our predictions. None of us said it was Patrick. None of us. It was just
I didn't have him as a first round pick. So yeah,
it's crazy. So then the Warriors did something even more peculiar in the second round. They moved up 7 spots, in the process giving up $2 million cash. And I thought that was a really strong sign. I'd love to get your opinion and insight on that, because if the Warriors want to bring back Kevon Looney, Gary Payton II, even Otto Porter Jr., the strategy is you have bird rights on Looney so you can match whatever someone else is offering. You can offer Gary Payton II up to 4 years, $49 million guaranteed, because you have his early bird rights. And then Otto Porter Jr., you can offer him the mid-level exception at close to $7 million. And if you can do that, if you're willing to spend it, that's a big question. Yeah. But they gave up $2 million just to move up 7 spots and get this kid Ryan Rollins. Why did the Warriors do that? And your thoughts on Ryan Rollins, please.
Well, I'm probably the wrong person to talk to because I'm biased on Ryan Rollins.
Who cares?
And,
Go for it.
So I'll tell you my story with Ryan. So I spent the majority of this season in Europe overseas scouting the international prospects.
Where in Europe? Everywhere, or like specific
cities?
I've
spent a month in Barcelona. That got expensive. And then I went to Athens. Athens was a whole lot cheaper. So I stayed in Athens. And then I spent time in France. I spent time in Italy. So it was awesome experience.
Yes, love Europe.
Again. But right before I went, I had to go to Detroit to film something. And a friend of mine is like, hey, you want to go check out this kid in Toledo? And I was like, yeah. So I ride to Toledo, which is a short drive. It wasn't too long. And it was a preseason game. They played like, I don't know, Sisters of the Blind Tech. I don't know. So they played a really small, I don't even know if it was an NAIA school. And I remember watching Ryan Rollins, and I'm like, this kid is a pro. I was so adamant that he's a pro that I did a podcast episode when I got back to Dallas. It was like, I don't know, maybe September 26th. It was early. Regular season at the start. I said he is going to be a pro. He's going to be this year's Jason Preston, which was the kid that the Clippers drafted from University of Ohio this year, because they're in the same conference at the MAC. Mm-hmm. So, all year I said, I think this kid's going to be a pro. I had him as a first round grade. So one of the last episodes I did with Chad Ford, we did a mock draft. And I don't know was it the Warriors? I don't know, whoever was 28th at that time. Maybe it was the Thunder. And I had him as a first round pick. And we did it on Restream. And Chad is looking, and he looked at me as if like, are you plugging your cousin or your friend in? Like, so he calls me maybe like a day later, and he said, because he had never heard of Ryan. So he calls me maybe like a day later, and he said that some NBA scouts were like, yeah, he's legit. Ryan Rollins is a pro. And so from there, I just kept saying, man, I think this kid's a first round pick. And then I guess because I was, I don't know, maybe early on the Ryan Rollins train, his agent reached out to me. Come to find out that he was doing his pre-draft training in Dallas. So I did an interview. So I can actually, Warriors fans, if you want to see it, if you go to NBA Big Board, I did an sit-down interview with Ryan Rollins. It was like the first one I did this summer. Got a chance to talk to him. So anyway, the reason why I'm high on him, he's 19 years old, which is young for a sophomore. So you get a kid that's 19. He can create his own shot. Great kid. I've spent time with him, went out to dinner with him a few times, went to probably 10 of his workouts. Great kid. I think he'll be able to score on 3 levels. What I like about him is that he's, on one hand, he's young, but he has 2 years of college experience. But he's like your classic late bloomer, your classic kid that wasn't highly touted as an 8th grader or 9th grader, wasn't someone that grew up reading about him all over social media. and he's just gotten better and better and better every year. And
Mm.
so he does have this chip on his shoulder in a sense because he's never been like that guy, like that highly touted guy. So he's always trying to prove that he belongs. And I remember like just watching him play pickup earlier this summer. Guys didn't know who he was. So I mean, he's in the gym with some NBA players, some guys that were projected to go first round, and he's there and he's scoring on them, and they're just kind of like, who is he? So I think that the Warriors got a steal. Again, I could be a
Oh,
little bit biased, but I think the Warriors got a real steal with Ryan Rollins. And so I think they feel like it too. I mean, they spent $2 million. Kerr had good things to say about him. So I'm pretty confident. So confident that before the draft, I did an article about guys that I think are going to outperform the draft position. And he was one of the guys.
oh. How can people find that article? Is it just
So
Google
it's
NBA
on
Big Board?
Yeah, it's on NBA Big Board.
Okay.
My Twitter name is up. If I'm not mistaken, it is my pinned tweet, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, there we go. Sounds good. Definitely go check that out. Rafael, look, man, I could spend like hours with you. I don't want to waste your time. I would love to get you back on at some point. You clearly are a brilliant basketball mind. Real quick, just give people just a taste of those other two picks the Warriors got. Gui Santos, they picked with the 55 selection he played in Brazil. And then Lester Quiones, if I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. Any thoughts on them? I know these are, low risk picks, but can they turn into anything, or could they be rotational players? Any thoughts on them?
Santos is intriguing. So one of my regrets this season is, I was planning on spending the whole year in Europe, and just traveling within Europe is pretty cheap. Once you leave the States, everything's a little bit cheaper.
True. Eurorail's the best, man. Yeah. Or flights. Yeah.
So yeah, my wife was with me, and we found out that she was pregnant in December. So she left to come back to the States. So I was going back and forth a month. I would do 3 weeks in Europe and then 1 month to go to all the doctor's appointments. So
that's a great wife, by the way, man, for letting you do that. That's kudos to her.
Yes. I'm so thankful, so blessed. And
Yes.
so that kind of got a little expensive going back and forth. But one of my plans was to go to Brazil to watch Santos play, because I got this goal of hitting all 7 continents. And I haven't been to South America and Antarctica yet. So South America, that would have been a legitimate reason. And then, could have been like, hey, let's go to Brazil. But she still worked. So she had to work like crazy hours, like US hours. But she could come with me because she worked remotely. So once we found out she was pregnant, I just didn't have the money to take the trip to Brazil to watch him play. So it would have been killing really 3 birds with 1 stone. Add another continent to my bucket list, watching him play, and then going to Brazil. But I've watched a lot of film on him. He's about 6'7". I saw some reports that said he's 6'9". I don't know how accurate that is, but I think 6'7", can handle the ball a little bit. Could be just your low risk, high reward player. I don't. As of today, I don't know his plans, if he's going to play for Santa Cruz, if he's making more money where he's at. But he's definitely someone that I would have taken a flyer on developing, because of, there's so much value in wings that can handle the ball and pass. And so I think that he would have been he was definitely a good gamble there.
Oh, and Sophia Jones mentioned, and I've read this too, that he has a relationship with Leandro Barbosa, who I personally love.
Yep.
There's some potential there. Rafael, man, anything you want to plug before I let you go, dude? And I really hope you come back on at some point, because your insights, your intelligence is welcomed here, man. Anything you like to promote before we let you go?
Yeah, you can find me at Barlowe 500 on Twitter. And then if you want to know a little bit more about the Ryan Rollins, it's my pinned tweet, and I'll leave it up for a while. But yeah, I had wrote about him, so it's actually pretty cool to talk about Ryan, because I feel like I was one of the early people to really bring him, just bring attention to his name. So I'm glad he went to Golden State. I'm definitely going to reach out to him, see if I can make a trip, because I haven't been to the new arena. So but yeah, you can find me there. And then NBA Big Board, I took over for Chat 4. It's the newsletter. It's it's exclusive content. So I'm very, very blessed and thankful for the opportunity that Chad gave me when he retired. And then it's the Locked On NBA Big Board podcast, which is pretty much every day covering the draft. And now I got to think of stuff to talk about in September and August and October. So I'm already working on 2023 stuff. But so that's where you can find me at.
Nice, man. Let me know if you ever need a guest so you have some filler content. I'm always available.
Yeah, anytime you want
And
me on, just let me know. This was fun.
you,
Anytime, and I'm here.
you got it, dude. And like I said, if that Ryan Rollins things happens, if you want to come on with him, I'm totally whatever the scenario is. Dude. He's a new member of the Warriors. You just made me super excited about him. And yeah, let's see what the future holds, man. This has been a crazy start, and the free agency isn't even officially started yet at the time of this recording, which again is June 30th at 1:55 p.m. as we wrap this up. So on tomorrow's Locked On Warriors, it should be a doozy. We'll find a lot more stuff out by then. And again, you can follow Rafael Barlow on Twitter at Barlow500. Thank you so much, man. Such a pleasure to meet you, brother. And like I said, you're welcome here anytime. And I'm going to reach out to you for future shows because again, there are not. I don't know if your experience jives with mine in this regard, which is that there really just are not a lot of people in this game who understand basketball. Like they get to these positions for weird reasons, nepotism, like just, being a yes person, maybe just falling in the right position based on, influence. But there aren't that many people that actually know this game, dude. And you do. So I cannot thank you enough for coming on, man, because I respect your mind, sir. So thank you, Rafael. Pleasure to meet you, man.
Thank you for that warm compliment. And anytime you want me on, let me know. I can definitely
You got it, brother. You got it. Thank you, Rafael. Take care, everyone. Thank you. Later.